Welcome, everyone. I want to explain a couple things. I've taken the liberty to change the way the agenda is written up and the way we'll go through the agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So may I interrupt? Could we?
We will.
Okay,
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to go through and explain what's going to happen. First of all, on visitors, those on Zoom, if you sign in with iPhone, we're going to kick you out. We want you to sign in with your name. So just know that if you just signed in iPhone, we want to know who you are. And as you know who we are, we want to know who you are. Also, and everybody has done it now, sign in over here by the door. Hopefully we get a desk or something there, or table or whatever, so they can see it better. But we want you to sign in. That way we know who's at our board meeting. As far as the visitors are concerned, our patrons, we have a section in our agenda for visitors' comments. And those comments will be made solely for what's on the board agenda. So if it's not on the board agenda, I'm not going to entertain your comments. So just to know that. If you do want on the agenda for something else, I know Dave Morrow and I did discuss, he's going to be under discussion items, and there was a reason for that, and we'll go into that when we get there. But you can do that. But before you just come and talk, we're not going to do that. We're going to limit it to the agenda and the way it's published. And the reason being is I want to have this as open as possible. I don't want any surprises to the public. I don't want any surprises to the board. That way everybody knows about what we're going to speak on or what we're going to discuss. There is a section in there for future agenda items still. And at that point, if a board member would like to bring that up for discussion or an action item on the next meeting, we can do that. We may change that a little bit if there's an emergency or something that's really crucial that has to happen at this board meeting. That may change to a certain degree, but for the most part, I'm going to try to hold it to that. And that is make sure that everybody is on board with what we're talking about. And we're not, like I say, surprising anybody. Also, to get put on the agenda, as far as the patrons of our district, we're going to ask you to go through the chain of command. If you have a scenario out there that you want to, with a teacher or a bus driver, I don't care what it is, we want you to talk to them first, then go to the administrator, then go to Mr. LaCroix, and then if you still feel that you need to be put on the agenda, you can contact me or Mr. LaCroix or CeeLo or any other board member. They can call me too, and we can work on getting you to the agenda. But if you don't go through the chain of command, you probably will not get put on the agenda. Okay, so that comes down to the board members, and I'm going to ask the same thing of them. I know there's a lot of things that happen out there as far as board members are concerned, a lot of comments, a lot of concerns, and we're here to listen to those. And once again, I'm going to ask you guys to go through the chain of command, which basically is Brad LaCroix at this point in time. That's our deal. And the reason being that gives him the opportunity to answer your questions. That gives him the opportunity, if there's something that needs to be researched a little bit more, looked into, question some of the administrators about what's going on in a certain area and come up with a solution. I want to give him the opportunity to do his job and then get back to the board members. And so I'm going to ask the board members to do the same thing if we can. And we can do that. I'm not trying to, I do want to say that I'm not trying to stifle anybody's communication. I have no intent of that. I think this should be a very open and flowing session. But I would just want it to be transparent. And so if everybody knows what we're talking about and we stick to that, there's no confusion down the road, excuse me. Also, the things on the board agenda, especially to the board members, I'm going to try to give you background information on what I can, or what we know out there. That way everyone has a foundation to build a conversation on. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that some board members may not have more information than others. In fact, some of the public may have more information than we do, and they can comment on that. But I want to be able to give that background information on the topics to the board. The next thing you'll notice is Mr. LaCroix is sitting up here with the board. That way he can pay attention to what the conversations are, and instead of playing on the computer back over here like Bo's doing. And we appreciate it, Bo. So he'll be setting up here with us. I want to say this is just a work in progress, okay? So if anybody sees something different that they would like to be on the agenda, or how we want to do the agenda, or how we want to run the meetings, please let me know. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to whatever wishes of the board. I work for you guys, and I want to make that very plain. Is there any questions on that? I know. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, it seems to me then that we maybe should be adjusting policy BDDC.
We'll get to that, and I'm not going to go into policies right now, but we'll look at whatever the policies are. I don't know all the policies. This is something new. I didn't know if the board would want to do this. Okay, so I want to get, this is our trial run, and it's different than what we've done in the past. And we can look at the policies that govern this. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Jason.
I guess my question would be, is I get that. Yeah. I guess I agree this is a trial, but if we're violating some type of policy, shouldn't we look at that policy first before we change how we're doing our meetings?
We're not changing the way we're doing our meetings. We're just changing the way the agenda is set up and going forward with that. Now, if we need to make adjustments to a policy, that's fine. And I guess at this point, as chairman, I'm going to overrule that policy and try this just for openness and communication of our board. I'm really going to try this. That was one of the things that I heard during the last election, is communication and transparency. And so if we stick to our agenda, and those are the things we discuss. Now, I know there's going to be things with reports from our administrators and directors that is not on the agenda. But we expect that report from them. We can entertain those questions at that point in time. But it's something that I just feel that for communication to the public, communication between board members, is something that's very important. Or that's what I've heard is very important from the public. Any other questions? Okay. At this time, would you please join with me in a moment of silence for two reasons. One, for Ron Mills and his family, and for Brandy Holmes and her family and the loss that they've had. So if you please join with me. Thank you. We'll move on to future for approval of the agenda now.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. And I know of no changes to the agenda, so all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recognitions. Are there any recognitions? Yes, Jason.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to recognize the teachers down at the grade school that stand out there and get kids to their cars. These few weeks ago, the temperatures were really, really, really cold, and them teachers stood out there the whole time. I think, well, I'll be asking for other things as far as, I guess, agenda wise, but I just want to recognize those teachers that are standing out there in that inclement weather.
Thank you, Jason. Anna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to recognize Zach Beam. He was recognized by the governor of Wyoming during the state address at the legislature when they opened. That was pretty cool.
Yes, it was. Thank you. Any other recognitions? Tyler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a few recognitions for you guys, and I would start with two businesses in town that explicitly asked me not to recognize them. But Chick Financial and Pinnacle Bank both contributed quite a bit of money to help some students in need recently, and I think even at multiple buildings. So just would recognize those people involved in helping students in our community. We had our 8th grade girls basketball team win the district championship back in December. We also had our middle school wrestling team win the district championship at their district tournament. And we had several individual champions: Troy Christensen, Kason Phillips, Landon Hathaway, and Dane Crabtree were all district champs. So there you go.
Thank you. Bryce?
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you. I also added my notes that I'd like to recognize Chick Financial as well for supporting some families over the holiday season or just before the holiday season. Also wanted to recognize Heath Hinkle. He's been selected as a Daniels Scholarship finalist. It's a scholarship that students from New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana can apply for. And it can be up to $5,000 to $25,000 a year. In February and April, the selection committees are going to begin interviews. And so Heath will have to go through an interview process to potentially be selected as a winner, but to be selected as finalist, I thought was pretty cool. So I wanted to recognize Heath Hinkle for that.
Thank you. Sean?
Yes, Dean.
Oh, you gotta push the button. You gotta push the button. Oh, he's on. There you go.
I just want to recognize Kaya Miller. She took first at the Douglas tournament. We haven't had a champion down at the Douglas tournament since 1999. So, and the girls wrestling is kicking off like no other in the state of Wyoming. So I'm really crossing my fingers for a state champion.
Thanks, Sean. Any other recognitions? Seeing none, we'll move on. We're up to visitors' comments. Yes, Stan.
My name is Stanley Jasinski. Thank you for recognizing me. I was going to make a public comment today, but you just took my right to free speech, my constitutional right, my First Amendment right to free speech away from me today to address this panel on what's important in my eyes to the public school system in Weston County. But you took that away from me. And by doing that, you're not promoting conversation or transparency. You're doing just the
I'm
opposite.
sorry, Stan. I would, if you want to address
gonna-
something on the agenda, we'll
I'm
talk.
addressing what you just said, which was on the agenda.
No, it was not on the agenda. It was
The minutes of the last meeting are on the agenda though, right?
Sir, I don't want to argue with you. If you want to address the stuff and if you want to get on the agenda for the next meeting, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it, okay?
Are the meetings minutes for the last meeting on this agenda?
They're to be approved, yes.
We can't discuss those minutes?
No, not tonight. No, sir.
Oh, so you're taking away freedom of speech here. Thank you.
No, I'm not taking away anything. Now, I just want to clarify that. If the board feels that it's necessary to let Stan or anybody else speak on this agenda, you can overrule me. And I want you to know that. I want you to know that. And Stan, if you want to get on the agenda for the next meeting, I'll be more than happy to entertain your comments. I will. Okay. Any other visitors' comments? Yes.
I guess I would ask for an overrule or an objection, considering this is the first time that this is being brought up. I think anybody that would like to say something today should be allowed to speak, but then from today on, then they need to go off of what you just presented to us.
And if they aren't here today to hear this and they're come next week or next time?
It's in the meeting minutes though.
Again, it's a public meeting. It's open.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to overrule my decision.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to overrule my decision to let Stan speak. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Sure, Stan.
Again, Mr. Chair.
No, it's Stan speaking. Go ahead, Stan.
So I wanted to give you some good news. Friday night, I don't know if you saw it at midnight, when they swore in the new speaker of the 118th House of Congress. In his list of agenda items, first or second or third down was they're going to go and stop the woke indoctrination going on in our public schools. That was second or third on the list of the agenda for the Speaker of the House of the United States of America. At which point 220 people on one side of the House stood up and applauded very loudly. And 212 people on the other house sat there with very long faces. So I just wanted to make a comment on the last meeting and about what people are calling political speech, because at the last meeting, in the middle of somebody making a comment, somebody jumped up and said, hold on, wait a minute, let's not make it political. So it's my opinion that anything that goes against the narrative of the people that are actually running the school board here in Weston County is called political speech. In other words, if you have a dissenting voice against what people don't want to hear, they call it political. And I saw fear in people's face here, fear of what to say. Oh, I don't know what to say. It's just political, and then other people. And then I heard somebody said, "Who's running this school board?" I thought you were listening to me over the last couple of months. And the people that are running the school board are not in this room, but I think they were on that camera there on December 7th. And that's why I jumped up and said, hold on, wait. Careful what you say. Because if you say what you want to say and it goes against what they want to hear, then this trouble. So I thank you for that. And I'm going to keep it shorter than I was going to, but I appreciate you, the board members, letting me speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Is there any other visitors' comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to action items. The consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to, there is no old business. So we'll move on to new business. I guess the recommendation of the new payroll system, Brad.
So in your packet, Mr. Chair, I would recommend to the board a pun on words, so it's a time management system, actually by the name of Time Management Systems, for the new payroll system that we would like to put in. And the fees that go with that are in the amount of $14,550.
There's a second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to purchase time management system for $14,550. Is there any questions? Yes, Jana.
Does this have like an electronic check-in, check-out kind of system? Is that okay? A little more information on that would be great. Thanks.
Yes, it is for employees to clock in. And out. It's a web-based system. It'll help with our payroll, which is all entered manually right now. And I talked to other districts that use this system, and it's a system that works with SUI. In fact, SUI actually uses them for their time and attendance, which SUI is our Software Unlimited that does our payroll and our accounts payable. This will put the employee's time into the system and calculate all the taxes, benefits, time. So.
Yes, Jason.
That for here or not the other buildings, correct? Just
District wide.
okay, district wide. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Recommended to increase payroll ACH processing limit.
Yes, and what my recommendation to the board is being able to change that limit amount from $600,000 to $625,000.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the increased payroll ACH processing limit from 600,000 to 625,000. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. Transportation request for bid proposal.
Yes, I would recommend to the board the availability to go out for a bid for a 75 passenger school bus for the 23-24 school year.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve going out for bids for a 75 passenger school bus to replace the 17-year-old one.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to go out for bids for a 75 passenger school bus for the 23-24 school year. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Permission to advertise for special ed position?
Yes, and so the reason for going out for this position is right before Christmas break, we had to make some adjustments to get some extra support for student services at the elementary. And by doing that, we created a void. And I know it's early to be looking at these kinds of things, but I would recommend to the board being able to go out and advertise for a K-12 special education teacher.
I have a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Been moved and seconded to advertise for a K-12 special education teacher. Is there any discussion? Excuse me. Yes, Paul.
I was just curious. I've been around the 3 schools here over the last 3 days. And I'm just curious on that new position that you created. Is that just for that school, that situation? Is that's where that resource went that we're replacing? Is that correct?
So I had requested to the board to transfer Elise Dickey from the middle school to the elementary school. So the immediate opening that we anticipate for next year is going to be the replacement of that special ed teacher at the middle school.
So I guess a follow-up would be then Elise Dickey's position is now a permanent position.
We don't know that, but we know that if we don't have the flexibility with extra staff, that it may be. And if it is, then I don't have a backup plan to help the middle school next year. I do anticipate the student needs at the elementary school being quite high. I don't know the exact incoming kindergarten class needs. But it seems like the needs keep coming in at a pretty high rate. So I'm trying to anticipate. And the other thing is knowing that special ed, math and science teachers are really tough to find. I think the earlier we can go out and test the waters, the better off we're going to be.
Are there any other questions? Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Classified resignation, Brad.
I would ask the board to accept the resignation of Corinne Dodd at the high school kitchen head cook.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Corinne Dodd as a high school kitchen head cook. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Classified transfer, Brad.
Yes, and because of the earlier resignation, I would ask for the ability to transfer Tracy Leonard as the high school kitchen assistant, and being able to do that, then moving her to the head cook and then posting the assistant kitchen position.
It's been moved and seconded to transfer Tracy Leonard to the high school head cook, high school kitchen head cook, and advertise for the kitchen assistant position. If there's any discussion on that one? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Brings us down to reports. Ross, you want to go first, please?
Well, it's exciting to have everyone back in the building. As much as high schoolers will like drag their feet and act like they don't want to be there, they really do want to be there. You can just tell by the cafeteria at lunch. All the freshmen that haven't really got to see each other because they can't drive over the last 2 weeks. They were pretty loud and rowdy yesterday. So it was just fun to see them excited to be back in school, whether it's for learning or to see their friends. I don't know, but it was good to have them back in the building. Something that we have started this month are the Y-top interim tests at the high school. They're basically shortened versions of the Y-top test that 9th and 10th grade students will take in math, language arts, and science. And in science, only 10th grade tests because they only tested 4th grade, 8th grade, and 10th grade. And so we've spread those out through the month so kids don't get, worn out from the testing all at once. And hopefully that'll give us some data that we can use to help us plan for the Y-top in the spring. So that's starting this month. We also have the ASVAB on the 25th. It's the military readiness test, all juniors who are interested in the military service.
Okay. Any questions for Bryce? Thank you, Bryce. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple things. We started off semester 2 able to meet as a special education department and have a little professional development. We met and talked about strengthening our goal writing on our IEP. So that was a good discussion. And then the presenter stayed and the principals and Sonia and Mr. LaCroix came over and we talked about discipline within the IDA law. So that was a good refresher and just some really good basic information so that we're making sure we're on the right track. And then currently we're just working on an out of district placement monitoring with WDE. Sometimes we place students out of district, sometimes DFS places students out of district. And so WDE is just trying to kind of figure out where maybe there are some flaws in that system so that we're all on the same page with those procedures. So that's what we're working on.
Thank you. Any questions for Taryn? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just have a comment. I don't think a lot of people understand that sometimes through the Department of Health, a judge will place someone in an institution that no Wyoming student's ever been in before. And then the state board has to send someone to evaluate the educational goals of that institution. And it really is not a user-friendly system. I don't think it's the best one for kids. And I know the state board has tried to get some of that change where Wyoming people are more involved in selecting those placements.
Thank you. Sonia?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Not a lot is different from the last time I was here. So kind of like everybody said, glad to be back. 2.5 weeks, it seems like, is a little way. So just getting back into the groove of things takes teachers a little while, takes kids a little while. And we've changed the structure of the math classroom a little bit, just with time with teachers. We've increased that so that students would have more time with the teacher. And so by doing that, things have run pretty smoothly as far as connectivity. So the last 2 days with connectivity has been very, very good for the most part. Pretty few items or, instances to kind of troubleshoot. So that's been good. The last time that we met, I talked a little bit about the State Board of Education standard audit process. And so I took place, Zach Beam and I took place in that in December. And we're meeting again, I believe, next week sometime. And so just as this process goes and kind of defining what the state board is wanting to see with their resolution as far as what is adopted as state standards and what the format and structure looks like, I would anticipate a draft to be out by the end of February for public comment. So there will be 45 days of public comment after that point in time. So just know that that's coming. And yeah, just a lot of testing coming up. So there'll be some data that we'll share with you after that. So any questions that you have for me?
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
Angie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to report the State Department of Education will be coming to perform an audit February 13th through the 17th. And I will have the second quarter financials to report at the next board meeting on the 25th. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Annie. Tyler or Bo, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I actually don't have much. And especially when you go last, I think I would just echo a lot of what they talked about with White Top interim, shuffling some classes and power hour interventions around and those kind of things. You guys should have got the notice from me about the Excellence Assembly tomorrow if you guys wanted to join us for that. And if you really want to mark your calendars for February 10th, we will have a Valentine's Day dance at the middle school. You never want to miss that. So again, February 10th, be there, be square. One thing to just be aware of, I suppose, nothing that I need from you guys and nothing that directly impacts us right away, but the Northeast District, which we compete in with our middle school sports, recently they have decided to officially adopt kind of an ABC model for their team sports like basketball and volleyball, rather than talking 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade. I would tell you, in essence, I think most of those smaller schools were already doing that, but it's more of an official stance now. And in theory, I guess would open up the same options for us if we felt the need to move kids up or down in that regard, but we're not there yet and don't need any discussion on that or anything like that, but just so you are aware that that happened in the district. And that's it.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Mo.
Okay. So really what I'll do, guys, is I just, since I haven't spoken in a while, I'll give you an update on quite a few of the projects we're doing. Over Christmas, we spent a lot of time wrapping up a lot of our audio enhancement. We added some clocks. We put some two-way speakers in the gyms. I added a system in the commons, so we are able to do presentations and speakers and whatnot in there. And we had a couple classrooms that weren't classrooms at the time we started the project that we've added systems to and cameras to and clocks to. So really I'm waiting on one two-way for the elementary gym. We'll bring 21 in and we'll knock it out. And I think that project will be done. So the one that really made me happy the other day was I had a middle school teacher come by and tell me that system has really changed the way she runs her class. Which was awesome. It was awesome to hear. There's something about someone talking on a mic where all eyes go to you instead of screaming over the top of everybody. So that was good to hear. That made me happy. So so that's the AE project. I think if you've kind of been at the Christmas concerts and whatnot, you've kind of seen our lights and our sound booth is right in the middle of the hall, right in the middle of the runway. So this past week, we've been building a sound booth in the back of the auditorium. Through that sound booth, we'll be able to run lights, sounds. I will put a PTZ camera up there, so we're able to stream and record I'm going to put it off the ceiling. We'll be able to drop the projector. We'll put a front of house plate in, so when we have presenters, we can either run them from back of the house or they can plug in to the plate right in the front. We'll be able to go up and down with the screen. So I'm really excited for that. And we've had some kids from the wood shop come and help, and we also ran fiber in there, so we shouldn't ever have any issues with speeds in there now. So and now the big project, the camera and access. Now we're getting a lot closer on that. The plan is to next week, they will be back. The big thing that we're working on now, we have a couple strikes right now that are bent up pretty bad from getting pulled on so hard. The only thing that was holding us up was the hardware on there. The hardware is here now. So we're going to go in, we're going to fix those strikes. And then the big thing is we're going to go through and test every door, tie up a camera to every door. One thing that kind of bumped the project back is in our discussions in A team, we were talking about if law enforcement had to come in and we were locked down, they would have their cars, but we never had readers on fire doors. So you end up getting stuck. If you have to go to the second floor, you can't get to the second floor. So we added about another 10 doors. So now there's readers on all those doors, which we're able to remote access, remote unlock. It gives us a lot of flexibility, but really the only thing that's holding us there is the hardware. We'll come back, we'll put the good strikes on, and I think we can keep moving forward with that. The network side of that is pretty much all done. We have ran single mode fiber to all our racks, increased our PoE power, our switches by almost 50%. So what we did with this project is we really built ourselves up for the future and expansion for a lot of years. By running single mode, you're pretty much unlimited with your speed. So that's good. So now I just got to get the state to give me more speed so we can push more speed, because we just keep getting more and more computers. So kind of on some upcoming projects that we'll start working on. We are high school refresh next year. So that is a really big one. So we will purchase somewhere between about 280 computers, staff, students. We end up getting battery replacements. We get 3-year warranties on all of them. The nice thing is this round will be through ARP. So in the end, we save the district almost $300,000 by purchasing them through there. And I might look at trying to expand the warranty on those from 3 to 6 years. So we get them through the life of high school and the life of middle school all under warranty. So that's kind of my plan there. So, and then the next will be elementary. And depending on how the ARP money goes, we might really quick come back and hit high school again, just so we don't have to foot that bill for, almost a decade. So that's kind of the plan there. The next project we'll probably work on, and this won't even take very long. So right now our host servers, we have 2 host servers. They are running 2012. They're a Hyper-V. You don't care about any of that. Really what it does is one copies from the other. So one goes down, it'll fire up the other one. But what we're having is those are so old now, when those trip, the information is not flowing across. And the issue we run into is our radius. So that's how computers connect to the network. If one goes down, it's not bringing them all. So there's a chance that we could have the middle school down and the high school not. So the idea with those is to rebuild those host servers, get the right redundancy coming through on them. And then I'm going to scale a lot of our servers down, and then we'll put some antivirus on it. So I'm thinking somewhere in about the $20,000 range, but those servers will run good 7-8 years. So, and then now is the time I kind of want to do that, because I do have a little district money, because I'm not putting it towards the refreshes and all of that. So we will also be putting a SIP trunk in. Now, what a SIP trunk does is for our phone systems, now that we are all IP based in PRI, a SIP trunk, what it'll do is it'll allow phones to do all page and talk, kind of like what the old system did. So we'll put that SIP trunk on, and it's kind of it's going to be a mix between audio enhancement, range, and Pine Cove, and we'll all work together, and we'll put that in. And really what that gives us is communication from any phone we want to go to. We can reach any phone or all call in case of, lockdown, emergency, stuff like that. You can go to any phone, punch in, and it'll hit the loudspeakers. Yeah, this one scares me a little bit, but yeah, like we said, the audit's coming in, and what that's going to be is it's not really an equipment audit, it's a threat analysis audit. So he will come in, he will talk policies, procedures, he will talk about disaster management. What else? What did he talk about? Password requirements and stuff like that. So on one end I'm scared, and on the other end I'm really excited, because I really do want to know where we're lacking and what we need to improve. So that'll be really good. But on top of that, what I'd really like to do, and this was actually a request from our E-rate consultant. So way back in August, we approved the policies, but what she would like us to do is in the board minutes say, we've looked at your internet use policy and we approve it. So what I'll probably do is I'll get that already. I'm not going to change anything. I'll get it to you early next time, so we can discuss and do what we got to do next time. And if we can do that, she'll get that. For those who don't know, E-rate is money we get for not servers, our switches and our wireless. It's federal money that if you say, we're gonna abide by SIPA, we're gonna abide by all these federal laws, we will, take 75% of the cost off the district. And our last wireless upgrade was E-rate, so that's what you want to do there. And then other than that, we'll get working on this time management, and I think it'll be really good. I think it sounds like a good system, so. Sorry, I'm dry now.
You said I like to talk.
It's been a while, so I figured I'd have to let everyone know. And yes, and I know more projects, I promise.
So on the future agenda items, you want to put the internet policies on for that? Is that what you want to do?
Well, and that's up to you, Mr. Chairman. Is that how we want to do it? I'll get it to CeeLo. I will get it to you early in the board packet. I'll give you our internet use policy, our staff use policy, and truly, if you please let me know if we need to change anything, if you want to do anything. And that really helps me get that ready and get my packet ready for when Brett from the state comes down and wants to do his threat analysis, because a lot of it's going to be based, hey, you say you do this, let's go out and you show me how you do this, and how you do you abide by your password policies and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, okay. Any questions for Bo? Gabby?
Oh, well, that's true.
All right, so I do not have nearly as much. What I will say is we do have our winter dance this Friday at 7:30 p.m. We will be accepting people in with either $5 or 5 cans. The cans will be given to the local bread office. And then our other funds will be given to us that we are going to use for further events, or we will use for next year. And that is my goal, is to set next year off better than we were left off money wise. A more important thing that I would like to shine light to is that we are starting to write the Honors Council book. So essentially, we write this book about things that we have done and achieved, and then we submit it to the state student council, and they try to approve us for Honors Council, which is just a higher status of council within the state. We've never done this before, so this is something new, but we're going to try to do that to get that higher status. And then those councils are recognized at the 2 events throughout the year, the Summit Region event and WASC, for their higher status. And they do have to do other things throughout the year, of course, but that's what we're working on. And then I also do have something that is unattached to my board report. I have Casey Matthews here with me tonight. He came to sit in on this board meeting because he is interested in the presidency position next year. And I do think he will do really well. So if you guys could just give him a warm welcome. That's all I have for you guys. Okay.
Thank you. You have a report, Jason?
No. I guess, Mr. Chair, I ask if I can back up. I had a question with the DFS. Is that okay?
Sure.
With that, I know with Deb at the school and Tanya and all them, when they make those recommendations to the court, do they work with us as far as letting us know, hey, we're planning on recommending placement in another?
Bo, can we get your mic?
What?
Your microphone, please.
So we are invited to what they call MDT meetings, where they make those recommendations. a lot of when they make the recommendation for placement, that's really in the court's hands. So we don't have a lot of say in that. That's where the challenge comes in. Yep. Yep.
Brad, we're up to you.
Okay, Happy New Year, everybody. Right before break, one of the things that we were able to do is as a leadership team, we sat down with an online group. As you know, after COVID, there's still been a great deal of request for online kinds of classes. The group that we actually brought in was called Excelsis Academy. So it's ACELLUS and then academy.com. I will have some more information for you later. But one of the biggest things that we're really looking at is there's a lot of pros and cons with number one, it's not for every student, as we know, because even when we went into the online learning, but the thing that we're really starting to see is because of health and distance traveled tend to be the two biggest parent requests that we see. So my hope is that we can get some more information and we can look at that. At the same time, I tell you that it does have the potential to open up some opportunities, especially at the high school when you look at multiple foreign languages and things of that nature. You have to be really careful that you don't sabotage the systems and the programs that you already have offering. And so that's sort of the big balance thing that we're looking at, but I'll get more information to you as well. And to Trustee Bow's question, the staffing thing is huge and it's changed. For years, when we opened up a job here in Newcastle, it was not uncommon, especially at the elementary level, we'd have 20, 30 apps in a hurry. Now we're really lucky in many cases to get an application, and it's just not us. It really is, as you know, nationwide. So we'll try to start looking at staffing patterns, programming, things in a much faster way, just because if we wait till probably that August, September, you're probably going to go without a program. And I think we were almost there last summer when we were looking for a Woods teacher at the very last moment. And then when we all know where we are with math at the high school level. So we'll continue to look at that. Also, I will continue to update you on the legislative memos that come out. So if you have time or if you need something to help you sleep at night, that's a great read. There's so many bills right now that I think it's nice to know what's out there, but there'll be so many of those that get weeded through so fast that there's no need to push the panic button. But if you do have connections with your legislators and you have a bill of interest, I don't think it hurts to reach out and let them know sort of where you feel. The other thing that we are working on for the upcoming year is the setting of an endowment meeting, which is greatly needed, and that's no one's fault but my own. And then also we will soon have a crisis team meeting, and we will introduce the new chief of police here in town as well. And then, as Bo mentioned, we'll walk through and show everybody how the key cards work and where they can go and that kind of stuff. Well, it's a lot easier to do it on calm terms instead of an emergency term. So really, those are the biggies that I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Brad? Thank you, Brad. Is there any board member reports? One of the things, I don't know, you got the new committees are posted. I don't know if you looked and see where you're placed. And Billy, you're on the EWC. Okay. They are up there. Okay. Anna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had already told you about WEPT meeting in February in Cheyenne. I'm also going to attend an international forum that my college is putting on virtually. I will attend the international forum virtually. I found out that someone I went to college with is one of the big managers of the umbrella organization, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they're doing a healthcare and insurance forum. So, and it's free for all those many thousands of dollars I gave them a long time ago. So I can attend that for free one day. So I will do that. It's in March. Yeah, it's just one day. No traveling, no passport needed.
Thank you, Tana. Any other board reports? Jason?
No.
Okay. Paul?
I alluded to it earlier. I got to visit all three schools this week. And I was very, very excited at the warm reception I received. I really enjoyed the conversations I had with everybody I got to talk to. Everybody was very helpful. It was very illuminating. I always knew that we had a lot of talent here, and I'm really excited to see how we can develop that even further. And I can't wait to visit with everybody I missed last time, and it was good to catch up and see people I haven't talked to for years and meet some new ones. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Paul. We'll move on to future agenda items. I have down the second quarter financial report and the internet policies plus from Bo. Anybody have anything else they would like to put on the future agenda items? Yes.
Trustee, can you give me the policy that you stated earlier, that partnership with that, please?
I have a BDDC, and then we may need to look at BDDA and BDDA-E. I perused them very quickly, so, but I believe that those are correct.
Anything else? Jason?
Mr. Chair, so I guess I'll need some guidance from you then. I had some parents that reached out to me that were going to come to the next meeting and had some concerns to address. So I just need to contact them and let them know to go through
Chain of
the
command.
chain of command, and then, so, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's I think that's the best way to solve things, is to start at where the situation starts at. So. Yes.
Okay, I'll kind of back up there a little bit too. I don't know if this is a future agenda item or not, but with what you said earlier about getting on for visitor comments, I think going forward, now would be a good time to do that. It should be in the minutes, correct? For everybody to see that if they want to be. So going forward.
I hope so, yes. If not,
So I'm good with that going forward.
okay,
On.
okay. And I'll make sure. Hopefully my thoughts and intentions were passed along, so you can understand them. Any other future agenda items? Okay. Move on to board discussions or discussion items. Dave, you're up first. But you got to talk through the microphone.
Thank you, sir. First off, thank you for allowing us to come talk. I'm Dave Morrell, newly elected to the new Newcastle Youth Football Association. We've got board members with us here for support. And the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we're transparent. I came from a small town, same size as Newcastle. And the core of the success of our program was started in football by being integrated and seamlessly done with the schools. So that was a key thing for us, is that we create a pipeline that runs the same offense, the same defense, the same terminology. That's why we wanted to maintain voting position by both the middle school head coach and the high school's head coach in our association. So regardless if it's me or the next bumbling idiot that talks to you up here as president, that that transition stays with. We think that's key. So hopefully, and I apologize, I couldn't get everybody the packet as soon as I promised. John, we got it a few days later. Thank you for sending that on. Hopefully you've had a few minutes to look it over. But the main key things we wanted to come talk to you about is we're looking to really take the youth football to the next step, and that's joining a league. And the league that's about the only option for the kids in Newcastle is going to be the Black Hills Youth Football League. And they run first, second grade, third, fourth grade, fifth, sixth grade. And I understand there's been some hard work with sixth grade sports, and we're not looking for a decision from the board, just simple discussion. And that's the support of us approaching, trying to include the sixth graders in our program. Now, at some point, nobody has the numbers, whether it's school sport for a standalone sixth grade team. I don't think it'll ever be able to happen, just like it wouldn't be able to happen on the rec side. So just having that future discussion on longevity of a football program in the community, what's the best path forward? And then the second part of that was the support to use the facilities. This youth football league, the kids are going to be the Bengals. That's as close as we can get to the Dogies, orange and black. They do it NFL style. So it's a community event. They want announcers. They want scoreboard. They want hype. They want community hype to get kids excited to really get out there and play football. They've also got a cheer program. That's another part that we'll have to reach out to people in the community who can take on that torch. So I think it's a very great opportunity. And we just want to be transparent. I've seen in some towns that a rec league starts and tries to draw talent away, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make the best football program pipeline to feed Coach Von Eye, to feed Coach Conzelman and his staff at the high school level. So I don't know, group, anybody else have any comments? I wrote a whole list. And
So
Yeah,
my question, Dave, is what do you need from the school board? I guess, what do you think you need other than sixth graders?
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you?
That was a tough thing, because we talked about there's really never not, you guys are, we like to make decisions, and we're not. We're kind of a transparency discussion for what's best for the community. So for the school board is just support, and we're going to approach, of course, the rec board to work out an MOU or an MOA to use facilities, but the support. And Alan, how would we do this? Just to encourage the sixth graders, that's probably the best option. Let's be honest. There's a physicality and physical difference between eighth grade to sixth grade. If a kid goes out for middle school football, he's not going to play, even if he's, I can't even think of anybody that physically, Suda McKing's probably the earliest developer I know. I can't even pronounce his name right, but there's just not very many kids, even at high school level, that can play ninth grade up, so a sixth grader, eighth grader, you're talking about huge difference in development, mentally and physically. And we just feel like we could give them that continuity of continuing to play in a full league, 6 games and playoffs and a Super Bowl, if we can put that kind of show on. And running the same offense and defense and terminology, they're going to same drills, same practice field, same mindset. I think without getting to a point of needing a decision, just the support of maybe encouraging to feed this program for the benefit of the middle school and high schools. I know that was a really political, non-answered reply.
So,
Yeah.
I guess if you're looking for recruits, and that's kind of the way I take it, you're looking for recruits for it from the sixth graders, and I understand why. I mean, I understand the physical difference, and I think the rest of the board does too. I would encourage you to have a meeting with the parents of the sixth grade boys. I mean, we will probably leave the sixth graders in our sports arena right now. But the parents can make that decision whether which way they want to go, and that would be my suggestion. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, as far as supporting this, I think it's a great thing. I mean, I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
yeah, I think just to clarify, sorry, Jason, Mr. Chairman, is I think just as a community member before, Carrie or anybody's tasked with spending time and money trying to make a sixth grade standalone team, or that, just know that we've got this going. That was the conversation, not a decision to, you know,
Okay.
tell parents that
Sure.
your kid can't play school sports. That was it.
Jason?
So couple.
Oh.
There we go. So couple questions, but first, so is this separate than the Little Dogies? Or are we getting away from that program and going to this program? This is the first question.
Great question. So a little bit of background information. Myself, Justin Proffer, really were the only people interested in continuing on with the Little Dogies. We sat down and talked about it. We brought in Coach Konzelman, Coach Von Eye, parents from the community, Seth, Jenny, a lot of people in the community, opened up to the public and really had the tough discussion. So we voted to dissolve Little Dogies under Little Dogies. And the reason for that is because they had exceeded the 27-month period with the IRS, become 501(c)(3) compliant. So knowing that they were formed in 2015, we didn't see the viability for the fundraising opportunities. Not only did we see, to be honest, I didn't want to be, I wanted a clean, fresh, organized and 501(c)(3) compliant association that I was affiliated with.
Okay, thank you for that. So I guess for background, for a lot of people don't know, so I know Tina, with our kids, when they were in grade school, correct me if I'm wrong, Tina, Dave coached. I don't know if we were the Little Dogies way back then when Skylar and Braden, but for those that don't know, really, we're not doing anything different than what we were doing with the Little Dogies. We're just taking them and you're putting them under a different umbrella. So, and I just, for those that don't know that, it's like I said, you're with the board, you're not asking anything different than what we were already doing, or you guys were already doing and what the kids were already doing. I know there, over the years, you know, there was some concerns with the younger kids and the sixth graders, and you know, and I can say, like I said, my kids, other board members' kids, you know, it's not like our coaches put the biggest sixth grader against a first grader. I mean, our coaches have common sense. Our coaches, they do the right thing and they pair up the kids the best they can with the games and even the other teams. You know, they do a pretty good job of pairing up the students or the athletes. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dave, it seems to me like there are two things that we would have to think about as the board and the rec board. One is the facilities use. And then your board composition does include specifically high school coaches or their designee, or the middle school coach and their designee. So it seems to me like we would have a little bit of extra duty pay to require that of them. Because I don't see how we can require that they belong to that organization if we're not compensating them. The other thing I was curious about is, have you guys discussed any way of perhaps giving scholarships to kids who want to participate in the future and who are unable? So those are mine. And I assume these guys are going to answer the extra duty pay and having coaches on your board too. Okay, so then maybe it needs to be worded differently. If we end up having a coach who doesn't want to participate in that, to have your board say maybe getting a volunteer from the football program at this school.
I think we're looking too in depth. I'll clear it up. So we're not asking Coach Von Hire, Coach Hansman to be at practice. We're not asking them to perform coaching duties. We're not asking them to do anything other than help steer the program for the guidance of the type of football program and athletes that they want to see. So that involvement, like we talked about, we're not, these guys put in thousands of hours. You know, it's just a vote to hold for time memorial in Newcastle youth football, that we're still going to be running the middle school and the high school football, not just offense and defense, because those can change, but just the mantra of what they're looking for. Because to be honest, a rec program's job is to feed a middle school and high school. So if we're not doing that as a rec program, then they ought to have a vote. And that can be as little as each of them showing up and saying, "Hey, knuckleheads, no, I'm going to cast that down. We want to see this," and that's why we left it, because that was important. And it was just a copy of where I went to school. So, but did that help? Okay. That's huge. I wouldn't have went to camps and wouldn't had gas going to recruiting business without help. I was, that's the good thing about football is it can help the broken kids off the ground. So that's key important for me. We want some skin in the game. We're still talking that through, whether that's if their parents can volunteer to offset. We're looking to see almost no change between Dogies. We see a cost savings when we join this league. Looking at the overall cost, but that's important. And with that 501(c)(3) status, we're really going after some big grants and big funding to really, I'd love to sit up and say every kid can play for free. Hopefully we get to that point. But hopefully that answers the question. That is top of our list. It was in our last minutes.
Yeah, dude, Jason.
I guess, Mr. Chair, the question would be, under the little Dogies, we authorize them to, utilize the practice field, utilize the football field for games. Do we need to call for a different under the new name? If not, then good. So thank you.
They're good. However, Teresa wants to schedule them. Yes, Bo.
Oh, no, I was just kind of curious. So are you going to inherit the little Dogie equipment, or you buying new equipment? I just was kind of curious, just wondering.
Oh, you might have to.
Oh, there we go. It kicked on. Okay. Yeah, great question. So it's really the same program. We just changed the name to refile for an EIN in the 501(c). Equipment got transferred, all properties, all funds, same association, really, but new fresh board members, new name. The league is sponsored by USA Football, so that'll be the standard. And then, of course, we got some additionals that we'd like to see put in. Same equipment, we're just getting Bengal decals instead of the horns. So I guess I'll finally be a Bengals fan, but sorry. But it's orange and black, so it makes it simple. The good thing is economy of scales for buying new equipment, refurbishing. That's really this league. It's $450 for our league entry fee for the whole team. That takes care of insurance, referees, and all that. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Good.
I can talk to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. And we wish you the best of luck. Board sound system. Bo, do you want to talk to that?
I do need a water. So this came up a few meetings ago, and really I kind of probably just need direction from you guys. This system, when we put this in, really was with the idea of it being a classroom. So we put a classroom system in here. So if we want to stick with the Zoom format and we want to stick with microphones and everything else, it was brought to my attention that maybe we need to buy a system that's made for a boardroom. So what I was kind of looking at was it would be an 18 channel system, so we could have 18 mics going all at the same time. So we're not on, off, on, off, on, off, which again, this system was with the idea that we were going to have a class. If we ever had to separate, this would be a classroom. So, so if we really wanted to, I could I could move this and I could move it into a classroom. But I guess I need to know if that's something you guys want me to look at. Is Zoom something we want to stick with? What I've kind of found right now is microphones, audio, wireless is very expensive. And so I've talked to a couple of companies already. I think I got a decent one lined out, but he is telling me maybe April or May. So if we were going to do it, we could get it. We could get on there. I'm sure, depending on what it really comes in at, I might have to bid it out too. Talking with Tyler, we talked about ARP with kind of the idea of being virtual meetings and keeping people separate. And that's kind of how we could put it under ARP if we really needed to. So it really is just a discussion for you guys. If you want me to move forward on it, if it's something you think we need, like I said, 18 channels, it would have an input that would go into the computer. What we'd probably do is a PTZ up here, a wide angle that we could sit, we can move it from up there instead of our, well, that's still on the stand all by itself, but there we go.
I think it'd be very nice to have mics that all work and we don't have to play back and forth to try to get them to turn on and turn off, and that we could all communicate if we want to. And I mean, we can always have an on-off switch on our mic, but they're always active. And I think that would be very nice for the board. I really do. I think it would be, instead of playing with the technology, we could just be working on the board, you know, and also I guess Zoom is probably here to stay for forever. I don't know, or some technology such as this, and they should be able to hear us. I know that before we always just had the little mic up there, and it didn't work very well, and so I for myself, I guess I would like to see us at least look at them and go out to bid and maybe come back with a bid or something. And
okay.
See what
Yeah, because what I was looking at, they would be the base mics. If you're at basketball games and stuff, it's very similar to that. It's the on-off. That's the system you will have. We'll have some handhelds out in the crowd. We'll have some handhelds here. And then, like I said, we'll have the PTZ. And then really a PTZ. So a PTZ is it's just really a camera that you just control from the computer. So it's going to be a wide lens. We can adjust side to side and do what we want. It's not going to be something like this. It'll be something up in the ceiling, kind of out of the way, looking down. If you're in any of our classrooms, the cameras that are in there for the teachers to record lessons on, those are PTZ cameras. They're 360 and they go around. So the receiver kind of looks like a little AP, a little access point. There'll be two of them because you can roll, I think there was 10 channels per. So we'll have to have two if we want to do 18 mics. And that's another thing. Are we happy with 18? Or should I do a full 20?
I would think 18 would be enough. I don't know.
And really the big thing is availability and cost. That stuff is, it's up there right now. What I was told was probably 30 is what I was told.
Okay, Jason?
With the camera, is it just the one that rotates, or you will have one for the crowd, the audience as well?
I can do whatever we want to do.
I mean,
The thing with PTZs is you can daisy chain them together. It depends on how big of a production you want. You can go PTZ one that's here, PTZ two. You're just gonna need someone changing.
Well, and I guess being on the other end, if you can't see when somebody's talking without somebody turning it, or if we're doing the one camera, somebody's gonna have to spin the camera around off the laptop.
Yep.
I guess I would like to see,
The 360
yeah, well, or
or two.
two, so you
Okay.
can simultaneously see both,
Okay.
again, that's just my preference, but I agree with Mr. Chairman that I would like to see something with the system.
Okay. Okay. Most of the PTZs I've seen is, it kind of looks like a little Atari joystick. And that's how you adjust it. So, but I've seen where you can daisy chain them together, go camera one, camera two, and it'll bounce back and forth. So I have never played with it on Zoom, so that would be maybe a learning experience, but really, I just need a direction. I wasn't sure if that was something we were still interested in, if that's what we wanted to do. Me personally, I think it would be this on off waiting for people. Like I said, the system wasn't designed for it.
Yeah, I just think it's wise. Tyler,
To clarify on the ARP side of things, I mean, that's not always just a given. So as the grant manager, my stance is to look through the allowable uses. I would do an amendment to the grant. It would be very clear on what we were doing and why we were doing it. The state can always come back and say, no, we deny that amendment. So you guys need to be aware of that up front. Any of these, these additional projects we've done, some of the things we've done over the last couple of years, we've tried really hard to add an amendment each time, be clear on what we're doing each time, so that when audits come and those kind of things, we can at least speak to the fact that we told you we were doing this and we told you it was going to cost this and you said, okay. Just so you guys are aware, they could say no, and then you're looking at a different funding source.
okay. I guess I'd look into it, Bo, and whatever you can come up with. And
Okay. No, I bet I can have it in the packet for next go around.
okay. Any other questions for Bo on that? Move up to the school calendars then. Brad, would you want to explain those for everybody, please, so that we're all. You would not? Okay.
So as you know, it's about that time of year. And for many people, the calendar, the sooner it's set, really helps a lot with our planning and our staff development. And so I know from the curriculum standpoint, they would like to have one of these 3 months ago. And that's not what I'm asking for. So what you have in your packet are 3 just ideas for right now. Okay, so what we talked about, oh, I'm sorry. Gabby, do you not have one?
I bring my own.
We'll see how you are. Okay.
They're much easier to read.
Okay, so as you see on the first page, really what you're talking about is the traditional calendar and looking at those things that really don't always drive instruction, but try to meet both the student, parent, staff needs. And so you'll see that, that traditionally we always start after bike rally week, because one of the things we don't want to be in competition with is motorcycles and buses. And so that's always just sort of been one of those things that we watch. And then really when you try to fit in 185 days and you try to be out before You can't go 10 days after your graduation rate or you lose money from the state. So you have to watch that. So really with those bookends, it starts to get pretty tight. It just does. And then the thing that has become pretty popular is, of course, the 2 full weeks at Christmas. So when you look at those and you look on the front page, that is traditionally what you have as a calendar. And the big key pieces there is 175 student days and 185 contract days, which allows you 10 days for your staff development. Okay. Now, the question that Trustee Fitzwater brought up is, we weren't really clear on what a 4-day week looked like. And so what we did is we sat down and said, if the directive came, what would a 4-day week look like? So the 4-day alternative calendar, which, by the way, comes with some different rules and regs as far as, public hearings and things like that. But what it does is if you look at the student days, it goes down to 150, and we still kept the 185 days primarily for work days. And just from my standpoint, it always helps me legislatively, because we've always talked about how important it is to have the base so we can recruit good teachers, and then good teachers need that ample time to work. And so that is sort of where you are with the second calendar. Then if you go to the third, there's sort of a modified piece of this. And if you think about this, we actually probably did this about 8 years ago, as Chairman Riesland and I spoke. So what you're looking at there is really 163 student days and 185 contract days for the staff. And then everything is sort of flexible. But these are primarily just examples. We're not asking for any board vote. In the packet, we tried to entertain just some pros and cons. Tomorrow morning, I'll go ahead and have the building principals, put those out so the staff can see them as well. I wanted the board to sort of see them first. And then my hope would be truly, for the future, if we really are going to go down the alternative route schedule, I need a little bit more time. First of all, a directive from the board, and then be able to start the process with the hearings and everything. But I will tell you this, one of the biggest concerns that I have with any alternative calendar is the unknown impacts on both student learning, programming, and our hourly employees. And I think that was pretty loud and clear from at least the hourly people that reached out to me is, if they're going to have a setback with funds, it's going to make it very difficult for them to stay with the school. And we already have, as you know, a really difficult time with our classified staff. So I know the team out here can answer different questions from their respective buildings, but I just thought it was good to have everyone see this going up front.
Jason?
I guess for me, in a nutshell, with all this scheduling stuff, I'm not going to lie, it's a little above my head, but I guess really in the end, we have many districts in the state of Wyoming doing 4 days, and I'm sure they've had the same. They, like Brad was saying, there's certain things that we'd have to accomplish. I'm sure they all have the same thing. So I guess for those in front of me, our reservations, they've already done it. What is our concerns that haven't been answered by other districts doing it that are holding us back from really looking into this?
I would say the two biggest things I would look at first are your block schedule. And then the other thing would be your concurrent and dual credit that I don't think anybody our size or smaller has. Those would be the two that jump out at me right away.
Dana?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I looked at all three of these. One of the things I really wanted to know was what we were requiring of our teachers. So on the number one traditional calendar, we have a total of 10 professional development days and then 23, just over a quarter days of PLC time. That adds up to 6 total days in the year for PLC time for teachers. Number two, the 4-day alternative calendar, we have 7 full professional development days. And then we have 28 2/3 days professional development, which ends up to be about 30 days. And then on number 3, we had 17.7 professional development days, and then PLC time 13 quarter days, which adds up to about 3.5 for a total of 21.2. So my question is, if we can do 20, or if we can do 16 professional development and PLC days, then why do some of these have 30 days? What is our minimum professional development? Because teachers I've talked to feel like they need more time to work on their classroom stuff and less professional development time. And the difference in these really makes me think that we are asking them to do too much of that. So what's the minimum that we need to do to keep them up to date?
So I believe by state statute so years ago, I think to answer your first question is the legislative people were gracious enough to give us extra money. And for that extra money, I believe what everyone had to do is have 10 staff development days. And I believe that was at that time, I believe that would be the bare minimum to answer that.
Yeah, I think in a traditional calendar, that's what that is designed to be, is those 10 days or those professional development days, which is why it is the difference between the 175 student days and then the 185 contract days. An alternative calendar doesn't follow by those rules. So you can add as many days as you want to in whatever format as you want. So a lot of those PLC times, I know we've talked as a team that some of them are some professional development time, some of them are PLC time. We also hear that same thing. Teachers need time to work in classrooms, in teams, to get stuff done. And so that time is provided, and that would be a good chunk of that time is work time.
Sean?
Can I follow up?
No, go ahead, Sean.
Okay, I just want to ask which one of these drafts would help our challenge kids? Because we have a lot. And another thing too is we say, are we equal? Do we have the same amount of challenge kids as other schools? Because from what I feel, our school is full of challenge kids. So I just want to know which draft would help those kids out the most. So that's
Brad, go ahead.
So, I guess the question always comes down to what do you do with that time? And the reason, and for many of you that are new, I know this is a broken record, so I apologize right up front. But the thing that I've always worried is not what others do, but what do we do, and what do we do well? And knowing, again, coming off the election, there was a lot of talk about test scores, and I'm not dodging the test score question, but I think anytime you look at any kid, whether you're at risk or not, remember, we're all one decision away from being there. I still think, in my opinion, the best place for young people to be educated is in a classroom. But I also will recognize that coming off of COVID, coming off the ever-ending changes of curriculum and standard review and those kinds of things, we're in a different setting. For me to even have a conversation with an online virtual kind of a deal is out of my stretch of comfort. But I do realize for a lot of families where safety, health, travel is a concern, I think we have to relook at education. So I always lean more towards the traditional kind of a schedule, but then I know that other school districts do very well with their learning and take care of their student needs as well. I'm not saying they don't, but I always like the idea of them being here. But that's just me, and for those in the room, that's probably an old-fashioned stance. But I still think, I think teacher time is important, and then what teachers do with that, that's up to them.
Dana, did you have another question? Were you done?
Yeah.
Dana?
So it seems to me like we are pretty much overdoing the minimum for professional development, almost threefold on one of these calendars. So I guess I would like to see teachers have a little less professional development and a little more time to prepare for their classes, to prepare for to spend time with those kids. I think we've just exceeded what we really need, and I may not be understanding that, and I grant you that totally. So, but there's a huge difference between having 16 professional development days and having 30. And so I guess 30's out for me, but that's just what I feel needs to be done to really, because if we don't have teachers who feel supported and have enough time to do their work and help kids, then we're just going to lose more teachers. We're going to have a harder time hiring them. And I was a little shocked at when I counted all these up.
Tyler?
I saved it earlier, so I get water. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To address that, I suppose, and I guess I would start by just really painting the picture, understanding I'm pretty fortunate. I can only speak for my building. I'm pretty lucky to have a building that, by and large, is pretty in lockstep. They buy the mission, they do what they're told, everything else. Man, you want to get it exciting in the middle school, start talking calendars. Because I mean, there's just so many different perspectives. There's things that make sense for this family or their philosophy for education or everything else, to what everybody's talking about, whether that's Brad or Dan or anybody. I mean, the balance is time with students, which benefits all students. That's a no-brainer. And time for teachers to do their job effectively and those kind of things. And so I think what you're misunderstanding with these calendars is those aren't professional development days. At least from my building's perspective, what I heard loud and clear from a group of my teachers, not a consensus, but a group of my teachers, is this is what I'm doing in the evenings. This is what I'm doing on the weekends. Why not just make it a part of my 5-day week? So I don't have to grade and plan and everything else on a Sunday. Give me a Friday to have that time. to Sonia's point, yeah, there's still going to be PLC meetings. There's still going to be professional development. But ultimately, I think that's where you guys, that falls on principals and directors and administrators to hear our teachers and use that time both for students and for staff, if that's the direction that you guys choose to go. Does that help clarify that?
I don't think so, but.
I'm gonna say somewhat, but I mean, on this 4-day alternative calendar, it says all these yellow days are professional development. The black days and the yellow days.
From 8 to 1, sorry.
Right, so they're 2/3 of a day. So that's not PLC and planning time, right? That's someone coming in so why does it qualify to be considered professional development then? I guess that's where I'm confused.
That's no different than the black days. That's not a full day where we have a speaker in. Those are professional days. Maybe they shouldn't be called PD days. Maybe they should be called professional.
I would think that's something that really does need to be clarified. I agree. I understand.
Clarification is very.
Yeah, I understand.
The staff.
I have a question, and I guess it goes along with Sean's here a little bit. And I've always believed that teachers in front of students, you get the best response from the students. And I guess that's been my philosophy ever since I've been on the board. And we've discussed the 4-day week, and we've discussed alternate schedules or whatever. But I still come down to, if the student isn't in the classroom learning from a teacher, what are they doing? And we know that there are some dysfunctional families out there with students, and here we are trying to get them to learn, and it's a very tough situation for some of them, especially in the high school levels. We've graduated 7 a few years ago that were homeless, and we worked through that and got them there, and we got them through the school, and here's another day that we're going to turn them loose, I guess, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but we're going to turn them loose on a 4-day schedule. And I look at this sign behind me, what's this do for kids? Some kids some of the students can probably handle it very easily. And some of the parents can handle it very easily, but there are probably a lot of parents out there that cannot handle it because both of them are working or whatever. And sometimes they just don't support them young people like they should, or like I grew up. Let me put it that way. So I ask, what does this really do for the education of students? Really, where's the benefit to our students, not our staff? I mean, we're big boys and girls and or ladies and gentlemen, excuse me. And we can work through that. We do it in the private sector, we do it in the school sector. But what does this really do for the education of our children? I'm concerned about that. I really am, even on the 4.5-day week. I know Billy and I kind of discussed that a little bit the last time, which is fine. I mean, I'm willing to do that. And that gives teachers some time at the end of the week, at the 4.5-day schedule, or how we do that, to work on those situations. And I know it's a tough job to be a teacher, and I admire every one of you that do that. But still, I want to know what it does for the education of children and how it's beneficial. And it may work very well in other districts, very well. And I'm not saying it can't work here, but those are my questions. I don't understand how it's beneficial for children. And if somebody can tell me that, I'd vote the other way, but right now I can't. I would go with the traditional. Jason?
I guess, Mr. Chair, from my previous statement on that, and I don't disagree with you, but I guess for me, thinking about it now, I would truly leave it up to the teachers to really tell me what's going to work best for them and the schools. And I think it would be safe to say that they have those students in mind when they're making those decisions on what works for them and for the staff itself. So I guess I would refer to the teachers to at least for me, let me know what schedule works, and I guess that would be my vote.
Yes, Gabby.
From a viewpoint similar to Jason's, I would like to. Bad. From a student point of view, I do think that there's benefits. Obviously, there's pros and cons to both schedules, as we all know. The 4-day school week, I do think that if those teachers, like Jason said, we do need to leave it up to the teachers because the board can be here doing as much as they want to do. But ultimately, the teachers are the ones in the school doing it. So if the teachers do need those days, because we have to recognize that they're human as well, if they need those days to be better teachers, then we need that so we can teach our kids better. So ultimately, if it does benefit the teachers, then it can possibly have that effect on kids as well, too. So we have to take that into account, I believe. And I think that it is important to hear all the teachers' votes, a consensus, not necessarily our personal opinion or things that we've seen in past, but really understand what's going on inside the classrooms and how things are going. Do they have enough time? Do they have enough time to plan for class? These are all things that I think need to be taken into consideration when making this new schedule. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sonia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a little bit of background about the process of the calendar making and how that's been done, I guess, since I've been here, or in this position of kind of involved in the getting input and everything else. So how the process starts is usually, October, November, like you really do start about that early, putting together a couple drafts. So that there are some choices, there are some options that really are just drafts. There's nothing in stone that you can say, no, I kind of think this, I kind of think that. And always what my take is, if I'm talking about a calendar with anybody, like my very first thing is, top priority would be what is best for student learning, like what is best for student learning and how can we best support students as well as teachers within this whole thing. So once those drafts are made, then they go out to all buildings. So all teachers see them, all buildings see them, building principals get teacher feedback. They have discussions, they meet together in small groups and whole groups. Like there's a ton of discussion, no different than what Tyler just said. Like there's definite opinion about every single thing. No one's going to agree. I can tell you that right now. Like there's no one that's going to agree to have like a complete consensus or vote on anything. Now we can live with anything. In fact, a lot of teachers say, you know what, just give me a calendar. Like I'll show up when you want me to show up. Like I want to work with kids. And so I think, I mean, that's what we're here for, is we're here to work with kids, right? So once all that discussion has taken place, then it comes back as a leadership team and we flesh things out. What were some commonalities? What do we need to change? Which ones do we need to tweak? Which ones are most popular? Which ones are not? So then we make a new draft. So then we get tired of seeing drafts, right? So we make a new draft with all these changes and all these comments that get taken in. And then it kind of goes out again. Okay, what are our main things? Can we live with this? Which one is our vote? And we kind of come back as a building. Here's kind of our vote. Here's the one we would want. Not all buildings agree. I mean, there's different needs at different buildings for different things. So not all buildings agree either. So between that, it comes up to kind of we mesh it together and here's the best of everything that we're kind of seeing to address the most needs. Once again, I always like to think putting student needs first and student learning first, as well as what's going to help our teachers out. How can we best support our staff and our teachers? So when we bring a a calendar to the board to vote on, that's been done a lot in nauseum. I mean, we've had all these discussions many times, and not, like I said, not all teachers agree. And so when you're ready for a calendar to be brought forth, that's something that goes into that. So that we really do take all of those things into account. And so when there's a bigger change that kind of is a direction that staff may want to go to, then I think it does need a little more time, because it would make different implications for our community if there was a bigger change that we would do. But just so you know, the kind of the background of the process. So that's one note. Second note, we just were in a training today. The research around brain development and learning goes with reading, goes with any other thing too, is if you do something in one big chunk, for especially those students who need extra support, who have some of those high needs, that learning is done best at small chunks over time and when they're connected and applicable to each other. So the more time spread out that you can get with kids, I would like to call like frequent distributive practice. That's what's best as far as what the research says, how brains work too. So I also like to think of that when what's best for our kids, like what structure puts them in place to have the best success, to have the most opportunities available to them when they graduate. So doors are open and not closed on them. That's my personal wish anyway. So anyway, so just a couple comments to think about.
Any other discussion? Questions? Paul?
I was just curious, has anybody sent out a questionnaire to the parents to ask them like what their opinions are on the calendars? What they think would work best for their kids? I mean, honestly, I get what you're saying and I appreciate it I know that teachers are going to do what they think's best for the kids, but I think the parents might have an opinion on what they think's better for their kid too, whether it's 5 days, as we've alluded to, or some of them might think 4 days. I mean, as somebody who has 2 children, one that is in everything that is known to mankind, she'd be fine with 4 days because she's not in school on the 5th day. Whereas my son, you got to poke him with a stick to get him to move. 5 days might do better for him. But I think it's important to at least ask parents what they think in the process too.
Right, right.
And I would agree. And I think one of the things that I have heard a great deal over the years, primarily with your elementary kids, is does the community have the capacity for little ones for daycare? And so, if we really were serious about an alternative calendar, I think you'd want to do that very early, and you would want to know right up front before we're going down this trail, if there is really no parent interest or enough parent lack of interest, then we just wouldn't waste people's time, because that is a concern, and then I would be remorse in not saying this, and I am speaking for our food service director, who is very concerned that if you are a child that is in need of food, one less day without food isn't very beneficial either. And so I needed to add that because I told her I would add that. But I really do think for us to move down that, you would want to start that in the fall of the year. You'd want to do those kind of surveys. And really, if there's a teacher team, K through 12, each building represented that wanted to take on the calendar, I would be more than happy to listen to that group's recommendation. But it really is a difficult thing because earlier you heard about the discrepancy in football from grades 6 to 8. Think of the learning curve between a kindergartner's needs and a senior's needs. And it really is. I mean, as an elementary teacher, I don't even think about the block schedule. I don't think about dual and concurrent credit. And if I'm a younger age kindergarten teacher, I'm worried about the length of a day. it's a long day for a kindergarten teacher. It's a long day for a kindergartner. And then if you're a ranch family that lives out, we've heard over the years that, you know, we want to be really careful about how much time they're on a bus and how early and how late are they going on a bus. And, you know, coaching staff here, you want to be really careful about, you don't want to dismiss school at 4:30 in the afternoon and then kids are getting home at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night after practice. And I'm sure they'll have homework and stuff like that. I mean, one of your students would and one wouldn't. And then the other thing too, that I've always worried about is if you're going to worry about the activity piece, again, it's just not the high school, because your high school is pretty good with your activity, your sports activities being more on a Friday, Saturday. But really, when you're talking about your activities of FCCLA, FBLA, and those groups, they do have to go on any day but Friday and Saturday because they can't be in competition for those kids. So in my opinion, your 4-day week for some of those kids could be a 2-day week or a 3-day week at any given time. So our activities, we're not going to sit up here and take away an activity. I mean, we've been doing this for 30 years. We just haven't. We've added, and they're all good for kids. But those things have their own life, and you're going to go when that event occurs. And so, you know, if the weather's bad and the football game's got to happen on Monday night instead of Friday night, and it's for the state championship, we're going. That's just what we're going to do. So those are all variables. But again, I think a lot of that depends on the capacity of the family as well. I mean, and again, you know, holy smokes, at one time we actually had some rules that governed a calendar, and you could make a school calendar for the next 20 years. You know, we had no such thing as a 2-day week. You had to start X number of days after Memorial Day, be out by Labor Day, And man, it was just a cookie cutter, and it worked slick. And then all of a sudden, well, there were some circumstances. I mean, really, the thing that changed that the most is when the legislator said you will have 10 days earmarked for professional development, period. Well, then those rules didn't really work very well. But I do think whatever we do with the calendar, you know, if you could do a 2-year, 3-year, I do think it does help plan families that have to plan further out than just 1 year at a time. And Sonia's right. I don't know if anyone, you know, if you could probably get a 60% agreement on a calendar, I would say that's probably as good as you're going to get. And I could go on forever with the calendar.
Tina?
I was just going to say too, the difference between like the traditional calendar and the 4-day alternative calendar is 25 days. So those students are missing out on 25 days of school between those two calendars, because there's 150 student days in the 4-day alternative and there's 175 in the traditional. And so I really think that's a lot of days. And when I hear teachers talk about, you know, anytime they add something to the basket of goods, when are we going to put that in? I mean, when are we going to teach that? That's there's not enough time in the day. And so I get that they need time to work, and I understand that as well. But I also feel like if you're losing 25 days, where are you going to fit all of that work in? All of those concepts that you're teaching on those 25 days, all of that practice that you are doing with them, and able to help them with those 25 days. And I think the other thing that I wanted to say too was, I mean, we're a Title I school, so there's a reason for that, you know, income-based wise. And so I think when you think about how many of our kids are at risk, I think that tells you, or at least it's a part of the picture. So those are just the couple of things that I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Tina. Dana?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. just to compare apples to apples too, on hours difference between the traditional and the 4-day alternative, the hour difference is 36 hours. So that is 36 hours for 25 days is less than 2 hours a day.
Is there any other discussion, anything new? I guess we're not going to come up with any kind of consensus or where we're going to go with this. Do we want to bring it up again next meeting with a little more? Okay. If we, I guess one of the things, the 4-day week, I don't know how long it'd take to implement that into our school district. If we decided to go that way, or if this board decided to go that way, it probably wouldn't be logical for next school year, would it? Or would it not? You'd be, I guess that's my
I'm
question.
sorry,
at this
I
point.
really think, Mr. Chair, if we're going to do it and we're going to do it right, and we really want to examine that, you really do need to say, okay, in this protocol, we'll just say let's go with the middle calendar. So if you took the 4-day alternative calendar and you said, this is where we're going, I do think you really do need to survey your students, your staff, your parents, and say, you know, what does it look like? What does it do to your program offerings? What does it do for shared staff? And again, my big question right away would be, what are you going to do with the 4-day week or the block schedule? Because we're going to have some major conversation with that, I would think. And maybe somebody already has that answer. I don't know, but I do worry about, you know, in a traditional block, you go Mondays you're A, Tuesdays B, Wednesdays A, Thursdays B. Well, now you're not going to see that A group. You miss Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You won't see your A group now till Monday. And I think whatever you do, you have to watch that. And then you have to watch your shared staff that would be affected in different schools. Primarily your pull-out programs. And then you're supposed to have 2 public hearings. And I think really once you get there, the implementation stage after that is, you know, making sure everybody's on board. And then each of the building principals would plan out, you know, what they're going to do with that time and what days are designated for work and which ones are going to be, you know, maybe either large or small group kinds of presentations. And then you would break it out that way. And but then the other question you're going to have to ask is, you know, with starting at 8:10 and dismissing at 3:50, there's going to be there'll be some financial savings with some of your hourly people.
I guess moving forward, I don't know, do you want to continue to research this a little bit more as a board, as far as some of the things that Brad brought up, and maybe Paul would do well, we're going to talk about a climate survey for the staff, but maybe during if we don't have time to put it into process for next year, maybe during the parent teachers conferences, we could have a survey, or at least hand out a survey or get a survey to the community and parents, and just see what their thoughts are on the issue. Is that okay with the board? Or are we just not interested in doing it?
I'm interested.
Yeah, I think we need to do our homework on it.
Yeah, we definitely.
Okay, let's see what we can put together, or Brad can put together for us, and we can do something as far as parent teachers conferences to get our staff or our parents involved in this. And also with the climate survey that we're going to discuss, maybe we can put something in there. Tyler?
Yeah, no, thank you. I just would, like they talked about the public board meetings, there is a process to apply with WDE. So you know, even if it is a long-term thing that you're doing maybe for the next year, so like you can do that application now for the 24-25 school year.
It's got to be in by May. And then they approve it they only approve it at the June meeting. So like to Brad's very initial point, if you can remember back that far, if you would wait till June to officially get the calendar for the year that starts that August, we're all going to break out in hives. So I would appreciate it, you know, if we had a little bit of that forethought, like you're talking about with the meetings and the surveys and everything else working ahead.
Right. I just think we need to hold off at least a year for that and see what the staff brings us back as far as the calendar, I guess, whether it be the traditional calendar or not, and we can work and research the 4-day week or whatever we want to do at that point. Doesn't mean we have to do it, but we can do that. Tana?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we put these on the Facebook page and the website and tell people that there's going to be a questionnaire at parent-teacher conferences? And they could leave comments now too. So, because it is, even though it's listed as something on our agenda, it's not it's not on the website now.
The calendars are not, no.
And so we're the only ones who've seen it. And I think the longer it's out there for people to have a discussion, the better.
Okay.
We could do all three. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move on to the board evaluation. I guess my question is, and we don't have to vote on it, but yes, Brad.
Sure, I thought the last two items are what I heard from last time. And I just put them on there for you guys to discuss, and then for you guys to be able to guide us and, you know, what you needed from CeeLo and I moving forward.
Okay. The board evaluation is basically, did we want to use the WSBA board evaluation? I mean, that's the one we've used in the past. And I know the new board members haven't seen that, but, and I guess Joe's not here, but if could we send that out to all the board members, CeeLo, and then they could evaluate it. It may be a little early, especially for the new board members and to fill that out, but it gives you a basis of where we're going in the future, and maybe we can do it again down the road, 6 months or so. Is that okay with everybody? The staff climate survey. I mean, we could do the same thing with that. I think we did that somewhat, didn't we, earlier? Do we need to do another one? I guess. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was really interested in seeing what the WSBA, their staff climate survey tool. Looking at that, I think maybe having it sort of uninterested third party do it might be beneficial. People might feel more open. I know it was my understanding that leadership got to see results before we did. So that's where I was really interested in seeing what their tool was and how thorough it was, especially after the governor and state superintendent or former now state superintendent of public instruction asked us if we had done something like that. And we weren't at that time able to say yes.
I guess on that one, what we could do is if we could, can we get a copy of that? CeeLo or Brad, CeeLo? And then we can send that to all the board members and we can put that on the next agenda. Okay, is that okay with everybody? Yes.
Yeah, I believe there is. I believe there's a rate based on I don't know if it was based on your student population or the number of surveys that they sent out. I can't.
It's like
remember.
$200 and some to process that. $250. I don't remember.
Yeah, I just know
Something
there
like
was a fee, but yes, we'll do that as well.
But if you just send that out and then we can discuss it at our next meeting, how we want to do that. That takes us down to an executive session. Is there a motion to have an executive session for a personnel issue under WS 16-4-405? Lalai.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to have an executive session for personnel under WS 16-4-405. Lalai. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, everyone, but. Tina,
Motion
I'll put
carried.
you in the waiting room.
So I've been considering giving myself a job. It would be when someone is gone, to make sure they've seen like the report of the meeting and ask them soon after the meeting if they have any questions about what was said.
You know, we used to,
Nobody ever offered that to me.
oh, okay.
And I don't think we've been doing that. We've left it all up to the person to figure out what they missed. So
Okay. Well, they do get we do
board roundup. The
board roundup.
right.
Do we need more than that or we need? Are you asking for more than the board roundup?
No, I'm just saying, I would take the responsibility of saying, okay, Joe wasn't here.
She said she'd do
The
that.
day
Oh,
after the
she'd
board
volunteer it.
roundup, I'll say, did you see that? Do you have any questions
Okay.
about it?
Yes. That's fine. Sure.
Because I would have appreciated that, so.
Okay.
I will do that, if that's okay. And I.
Okay.
dig. Like,
Well, I'll call an adjournment to the meeting. So it's up to the rec board now.
Okay, I call the meeting of the Weston County Rec Board. Motion to approve the agenda.
second.
I got a motion on the floor, properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any recognitions for the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Visitor comments, special comments, none. Well, yep, go ahead, Brad.
Just real quick, Tina or Teresa, Tina's up there. Teresa wanted me to let you know that the ramp was actually shipped today. So that was her big news. But because everything else was scheduling, I let her go a little bit earlier so she could get ready for her daughter's departure.
Thank you.
Any other comments? See, go ahead.
In talking to David Morrow about the football league, and he was going to talk to Teresa about the football field and I guess the scoreboard and
Access.
yeah, so just so you know.
Okay.
Certain ages, yeah. The first, he said, yeah, he said there was a first and second, and a third, fourth, and sixth. That first and second is. I think from third and sixth. There's the full flag league. Yes. It would be seven in the USA. USA, that flag has USA, but it's been around.
Any other comments? Seeing none, action items, consent agenda.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor, properly second to approve the consent agenda. Any comments? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Again, Brad already made comments that it's been shipped, so. And I think our maintenance guy, I think she said, was just going to install it then, is my understanding, so. No, it'll be, so whatever, yeah, yep. They can pull it. Okay. Any new business? Seeing none. Any discussion items? Adjourned.